Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the On the Diamond and Into the Deep podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and today is episode 77 of the podcast. The time of recording is 3:20 p.m. on Monday, June 9th. The Mariners kick off a series with the Arizona Diamondbacks in just about 3 hours and 20 minutes. Actually, exactly 3 hours and 20 minutes from the time of recording this episode. On today's episode, we will talk very briefly about what the Mariners have been up to since the last time we recorded, which was about a week and a half ago. I think it was 2 Fridays ago, maybe, or 2 Thursdays ago. Anyways, we will talk very briefly about that, especially what they did in the last week. And then we will get into Cal Raleigh and really where the Mariners have been struggling recently, because it has been a rough stretch since the start of June. And really, it's been a rough stretch for a little while longer than that. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, to begin, I mean, there's a lot of places we could be in. But I guess to begin, let's just talk about last week. You get swept by an Orioles team that is uber talented, don't get me wrong. And they're kind of a tough matchup for the Mariners in that their offense is really good. And if the Mariners pitching, it doesn't hold up, their Mariners are going to have a tough time because their offense doesn't produce enough runs for that. And we will get into their offense and everything with that later. But this is an Orioles team that has been bottom of the American League, other than the White Sox, which, in my opinion, don't really count for much of this year. It's a team that has struggled pretty significantly. Their players haven't lived up to expectations, haven't lived up to the back of their baseball cards quite a bit. And it's a series that you should, at home especially, it's a series that you should win. And the Mariners didn't. They needed to handle business after a series win against Twins, after a pretty big, actually, series win against the Twins, where it felt like the Mariners could have easily swept that series. And it seemed like instead of sort of taking momentum from that series, they sort of did the opposite, and they lost momentum. In a way, I think that showed something about the mentality of this ball club. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about the ball club, and none of this episode is going to be targeted towards a negative attitude around it. But right now, when you're looking at this baseball team, when you're watching the Seattle Mariners play baseball, it's difficult not to point at some negative stuff first and foremost. Because, well, you have a guy in Cal Raleigh right now who has been one of the best, if not the best player in baseball. And other than Aaron Judge, has definitely been the best player in baseball, in my opinion. Your team hasn't had much of anything. You can look at sort of performances here and there. You can look at Julio having a better season than he's had in terms of the starts of seasons in years past, but he hasn't found that second gear yet. You can talk about Jorge Polanco's April. You can talk about Randy Arozarena up until about 2, 3, 4 weeks ago when he just all of a sudden stopped walking. You can talk about guys like Cole Young coming up and walking it off in his debut and having a 2-hit game last weekend. You can talk about guys like Ben Williamson playing great defense. You can talk about guys like Andres Munoz. You can talk about Matt Brash, Jackson Kowar. Obviously, there are things to talk about because I'm just rattling off things that are positive to talk about right now. But it's hard to not go to some negatives before that because that's what this team has been for now the better part of 3 years. 2 full seasons, plus now much of this year thus far, this team has been nothing short of frustrating. Specifically, you look at the offense. And then this year, it's even more frustrating because beyond your offense struggling, you've had struggles with your rotation. You've had some struggles with your bullpen. There have been weeks and days where you haven't done anything positive other than Cal Raleigh. And you can look at last week as an example. Really, the last 2 weeks as an example. So at the beginning of this last homestand, the National Series, the Twin Series, the Orioles Series, and then dropping 2 out of 3 in Anaheim. If you want to just look at those series, Cal Raleigh, multiple 2-run homer games. 2 homer games. Oh my God. Multiple 2-homer games over the past 2 weeks for Cal Raleigh. Bullpen has had 3-4 blown saves. Starters giving up 5-6 earned runs. Middle relievers giving up 2-3 runs. It feels like nothing right there is clicking for the Mariners. And maybe that's just the floor of this ball club, and maybe that's the type of thing we need to expect there to be a period of. Every team, most teams, let me rephrase this, most teams at some point over the course of the season are going to reach their floor, especially when you have the numbers of injuries that the Seattle Mariners have. And you want to just name names that are really out, I'm going to throw Bryce Miller in there first and foremost. Logan Gilbert probably should be in front of that, but we're going to mention Logan Gilbert second. Victor Robles, Luke Raley, who seems to be on the road to recovery right now. They were missing Matt Brash, Jackson Kowar, both at the start of the season. Troy Taylor at the start of the season. Ryan Bliss is a guy people have seemed to forget about really being gone. And you look at Jorge Polanco, who looks hurt right now. Also down. George Kirby started the season on the injured list. Julio Rodriguez has gone through some injury bugs here and there. You look at it, and when you look at all these injuries, really what the Mariners have done so far this season has been nothing short of amazing. And you have to think about all these things in a positive way. Over the course of 162 games, you're gonna have bad stretches. And look, today's episode, a lot of it is gonna be talking about that bad stretch, because that's what there is to talk about right now. That's what is there. This bad stretch, this bad offense, this bad pitching, everything, all of this, everything that has been bad is just a stretch, because this isn't a bad baseball team. You look at what George Kirby did yesterday, 7 innings of 2-run ball, 14 Ks, career high. That right now is the ace in your rotation. That and Brian Wu and Luis Castillo are the core of your rotation. And you have gotten huge starts from Emerson Hancock, huge starts from Logan Evans, who might or might not be up sooner rather than later for Bryce Miller. But you're not going to stay healthy over the course of 3 full seasons or over the course of an entire season in of itself. And your rotation's not going to stay healthy with 5 guys over the course of 2-3 years. That's not going to happen. You're going to have injuries. That's just how baseball works. That's how it is. And as much as that sucks, that's just the reality of things. So yes, be frustrated. Yes, attack ownership. Yes, ask for this team to be sold. All of that. But there are things beyond that that you need to look at and be like, wow, they have done a great job. And first and foremost, what I'm going to look at is going to be, look at the developmental stuff that this team is doing. Look at their prospects. Look at their stuff with the draft. The value they've gotten out of the draft. And look at what they have the opportunity to do when it presents itself come the trade deadline. Because of all of these prospects that they have, and having the 3rd overall pick and 3 picks within the top, 50 or 60, you have the opportunity to go trade some of these guys and then really quickly replenish it. I want you to go think back 2-3 years ago, after really Julio had graduated, after Miller and Wu had graduated. What did this farm system look like, and what have they done in those 2-3 years since? Because it's nothing short of amazing. And you can attack Jerry Dipoto, Justin Hollander, this front office all you want for some failures that they've had with the major league roster, because I'm not going to deny those. Yes, that's happened. They've made bad acquisitions. They've made bad trades. You look at Eugenio Suarez, a guy that really maybe you should bring back sooner rather than later at the trade deadline. You look at the Mitch Haniger, Robbie Ray trade, and maybe they were forced into that by ownership. Maybe they were forced into that because they had so many starting pitchers on the roster that were talented, and Robbie Ray was hurt. Maybe they were forced into that because of the money. Maybe they just really did want Mitch Haniger back. You look at the Mitch Garver signing, and again, maybe that's because of the budget, but maybe they could have spent that budget better and elsewhere. But there are positive things in every way you look about this organization. There are so many positives, and it's important to think about and really try and focus on those things, because as frustrating as this team is, there are so many positives that you can look at. And number one on those positives right now is a guy that you developed, a draft pick that you developed out of, I believe, the 2018 draft, out of Florida State, I believe in the second round, a catcher, a guy that was drafted in the same draft as his battery mate, Logan Gilbert. And if you don't know already who I'm talking about Cal Raleigh. That's the first positive that anyone should look at right now with the Seattle Mariners. Because let's just go. It's 26 home runs, the most in Major League Baseball. 53 RBIs, 6th in Major League Baseball. 16th in walk percentage, 1st in ISO, 53rd in average, 21st in on base, 2nd in slug, 2nd in WRC+, 2nd in F4, 2nd in OPS, 3rd in barrel rate, 31st in hard hit. This guy has been nothing short of amazing. He has more home runs than Aaron Judge. He has a better ISO than Judge. He's playing a position in catcher that is more valuable and more difficult to produce from historically at the plate. The stuff that Cal Raleigh is doing this season is amazing. And by the end of 162, we could look at this season as the greatest season a catcher has ever had. And I think right now you're staring that down the barrel. And that's not anything that's like unexpected or hasn't been said. But to be on pace for 66 home runs on June 9th as a catcher, 66 home runs with anyone would be utterly ridiculous. But as a catcher for the Seattle goddamn Mariners, what a season for Cal Raleigh. Mariners are sort of on the map, but he's putting himself on the map. He's putting the Mariners on the map. He just signed what now looks like maybe the greatest contract I've ever seen. Like, the stuff that Cal Raleigh is doing cannot be understated. And I'm going to be shouting MVP from now until October 1st, October 2nd, whatever the last day of the season is. You should hear that from the rafters of T-Mobile Park. Every time he's at the plate, you should be hearing MVP, MVP, MVP. Because this guy is doing things that are unheard of. And don't get me wrong, Aaron Judge has been unbelievable in his own right. But doing what Cal Raleigh is doing from behind the plate and leading a pitching staff that, let's be so for real here, has had a lot of casualties injury-wise. And he's leading them. And, they're finding a lot of success. He's finding Brian Wu all-star level success right now. He got George Kirby success. He's found Emerson Hancock a new gear. Logan Evans debuting what seemed like really early a new gear. He's leading this organization with what should be a C on his chest. You should be hearing MVP chants from the rafters of T-Mobile Park every time Cal Raleigh, big dumper, steps into the left-handed or digs into the right-handed batter's box of T-Mobile Park. The guy's 98th percentile X slug, 83rd in framing, 92nd in average X velocity, 96th in X woba. So you want to look at, oh, maybe he's not good defensively. He's 83rd in framing, guys. Like, he's doing everything he can possibly do right now. And it's amazing. It's utterly ridiculous what he's doing. And the biggest reason for why is he's hitting really everything. There's no pitch that has caused him problems. Last year, he struggled a little bit against four seams. He was in the negative in terms of run value. I believe it was -1 or -2. He's now at a run value of 4 on June 9th with a 44.6% hard hit rate. You want to look at sinkers? He's gone from a run value of 1 all of last year to 8 already, and he's slugging over 1,000 against them. He has 5 multi-home runs games this season. He has 16 home runs since the beginning of May, which is tied for first with Shohei Ohtani. Since that same date, he's second in RBI, second in WRC+, second in slugging. And since he began with the torpedo bat, he has 5 more home runs than anybody else with 24, and that date is April 11th. Since April 11th, 24 home runs. He's also 13th in walk percentage, first in ISO, 25th in average, 8th in on base, second in slug, second in WRC+, second in barrel percentage, 26th in hard hit rate. Cal Raleigh is on a record-setting pace, a GOAT status pace for a catcher. For anyone, but for a catcher. Cal Raleigh, what you're doing is seen. You're going to be starting in Atlanta behind the plate for the American League. And that shouldn't be a doubt for anyone. You should maybe receive the most votes out of anyone in the All-Star game for what you are doing right now. 26 home runs, a 66 home run pace on June 9th for a catcher in Seattle is unbelievable. And I know you're going to keep it up, Big Dumper. So let's just give him his flowers. That's what I got on Cal Raleigh, Big Dumper, and hopefully he continues this pace. Because if he does, we're going to have a lot more episodes like this where we're just talking about him. Now, switching notes a little bit, let's talk about really where the Mariners are going wrong and just in terms of statistics. We're going to look at a bunch of hitting statistics from multiple date points. We're going to look at some starting, rotation, same thing, bullpen, same thing. We're going to look at statistics all around where are the Mariners struggling, what has gone wrong, since they were really having a pretty solid start to the year. They're having their best, I believe, 50-game start to the season since 2003. So let's talk about it. Since May 1st, the Mariners rank 18th in WRC+, 26th in walk percentage. The reason I bring up walk percentage is the Mariners were top 1 in April. So that's a very big statistic for when they were finding success with their offense. And it's a big reason why they have started to struggle more. In tandem with that, they're 27th in on-base percentage, 20th in average. They have the 6th highest strikeout percentage. They're 20th in slugging. The reason I bring that up, same thing. They were one of the best home run hitting teams in baseball when they were finding success in April, and that has all of a sudden dissipated. And if not for Cal Raleigh, who knows where they would be at. 23rd in OPS, 20th in ISO, 28th in doubles, 15th in home runs, 17th in hits, 23rd in runs. In terms of pitching stuff, they are 20th in starter earned run average. They are 13th in starter whip. They have the 8th worst starter home runs per 9. They are 14th in bullpen ERA, 23rd in bullpen whip, 10th in bullpen Ks per 9. You look at since May 1st, they haven't really done anything that well. And that in of itself is not good. That is a problem in of itself, and you can see why they're struggling to win games, especially recently. And if you want to go with a more recent date, let's talk about since May 19th. After that, let's talk about a few stats since the beginning of June. Since May 19th, 22nd in bullpen ERA, 26th in whip from the bullpen, 20th in starter ERA, 10th in starter whip, 16th in WRC+, 19th in average, 22nd at 302. In terms of on base, 21st in slugging at 374. In terms of stunts, the start of June with some hitting stats, they're 17th in WRC+, 9th in average, 20th in on base, and 18th in slugging. So very clearly from those stats, you can see the problems. Mariners are not hitting, they're not pitching, and their bullpen's not really pitching either. And if you're not hitting or pitching, I don't know how you're going to win games because you're not doing anything you need to win baseball games. Hopefully the Mariners can get a quick little series win here in Arizona down in the desert. But for now, and until the end of that series, as always, I am your host, Mahal. And as always, go M's, go Ners, go Cal Raleigh, and peace.